Hello, ladies and gents. So, finally it's here, the famous Rheinmetall Skorpion G. This latest addition to the premium vehicle certainly did stir up the water, and it is no question that it's a rather exciting machine for several reasons actually. I know that I'm quite late for this party, but unfortunately I got preview access while I was away on holiday, so I could only run a few test games in it. By now, however, I bought it for myself, and until the end of the month it's also available to the general public, so we can at least have a look at the price tag as well, which is quite hefty by the way. A good enough reason to have a closer look at what you can and what you actually can't expect from it, and at the end of the day to see if it's worth the money for you. As usual, we will have a very quick look at its historical background, compare it to its same tier counterparts, give some suggestions on equipment and crew skills, and then finally we will round things off with a monster game by the end of it. If you would like to jump ahead to the action bits, the usual timestamp stands ready in the description below. Otherwise, let's have a really quick look together at the history of this machine. Well, a very quick look it will be indeed, as once again, this machine only ever existed in blueprints, being one of the concepts to create an even more powerful tank destroyer after the success of the Jagdpanther by using a 128mm gun. While the real machine never became reality, now we can check out what kind of a sting that 128mm gun would have had, and spoiler alert, don't get stung by this Scorpion. It hurts. Kicking things off with the heart and soul of most tank destroyers, aka the gun, let's compare it with other Tier 8 turreted tank destroyers such as the Charioteer, the Borsig, or the T-28 prototype. Why not compare it with other Tier 8 premiums, you might ask? Well, that's because, unless I'm going completely crazy, the Scorpion is at the moment the only turreted tank destroyer option at Tier 8, with the completely different KV-4 KTTS probably joining it soon as well. So, what does 128mm get you around here? Well, it gets you first and foremost a very competitive 2400 DPM, achieved through a very solid 246mm of average penetration and a very meaty 490 average damage. Basically what you have here then is the same gun as the long gun on the Borsig, with a slightly lower rate of fire of just under 5 minutes, but, and it's quite a big but, a much improved aim time, much improved accuracy, and 7 degrees of gun depression. And this is huge. For all intents and purposes, you have a better version of an already competitive gun of a regular Tier 8 machine, and that's just something that you usually don't see in premium vehicles. Now, this kind of penetration combined with great accuracy means that you will feel comfortable even in Tier 10 games with your standard AP ammunition, and if you shouldn't, you still have an APCR option as well with 311mm of pen. Now this also means that racking up damage, and thus credits, it's a Tier 8 machine after all, will be really easy. In fact, right up until now, the T-34, the American Tier 8 Premium Heavy, was largely considered to be one of the best credit makers in the game. Well, up until now. I would not be surprised at all if the Scorpion would give the American Heavy a run for its money in this regard. Alright, so the gun is pretty damn competitive on it. How about the mobility? Well, it's pretty good, although I have the feeling that some people might get the wrong impression of it. So, first of all, you have the best top speed limit at 60 km/h, so you can pick up quite a speed going downhill. On flat ground, however, don't dream about reaching this with your 17 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio. Now this is not a bad value, and it's light years better than what, for example, the Borsig, not to mention the T-28 Proto, have, but don't expect light tank mobility. This is further reinforced by the really bad terrain resistances and the quite slow hull traverse at only 30 degrees per second. Now add to this the Tier 8 staple, completely rubbish turret traverse at under 19 degrees a second, and it's quite clear that getting into close quarters knife fights will not be your strength. At the end of the day, however, you can still get from A to B relatively easily, and finally you can now take part in the endgame cleanup as well, where you can usually get some easy damage if you have the speed for it. So overall it's a big improvement on most of the existing Tier 8 turreted options, even if it has its limitations. The big equalizer is of course the armor, or better to say the lack of it, and this is indeed a glass cannon. As is the case with all paper tanks, like the Borsig or the CDC for that matter, you will be a prime target for artillery, and any kind of HE shells will completely wreck you. Hell, since you have a dangerous gun and are basically a guaranteed damage and XP piñata once spotted, you better expect to become public enemy number 1 as soon as you appear on the minimap. Now, I don't want to spend an awfully long time on the marginal armor values, but just for completion's sake, here we go. The hull from the front has 35mm of armor including the angling, the sides has 16 and the rear 20mm of protection only. The turret, which is basically a simple gun shield, has 14mm from the front, though this value is actually only displayed in Tanks GG, and from every other angle you have exactly 0mm of armor. Alright, so I guess we simply have to stay hidden, right? Question is, how easy it is that to do in this machine? Now the camo ratings were missing unfortunately from Tanks GG, but checking it in game we can see that it's about in line with the Charioteer's values, but falls behind considerably comparing it to the Borsig's godlike camo rating. It's good enough however so we can build on it, and I definitely suggest using a camo net and a full camo crew on this machine to boost it as much as possible. Not getting spotted will be very important most of the time. As for the rest, a couple of interesting statistics actually. View range is a slightly disappointing 360 meters only, so try to enhance it as much as possible. Radio range is very limited at just over 400 meters as well, so on larger maps you actually could get potentially out of radio range. And last but not least, perhaps a bit of a surprise, the Skorpion is actually quite heavy for a paper tank, with a weight limit of 45 tons, which is huge. So careful with those rams, dear light tanks, you might not get the trade that you were looking for. Alright, so this was a quick comparison of the statistics. Let's just really quickly have a look at the suggested equipment and the crew skills as well. Equipment-wise, a gun rammer and a camo net seem to be pretty mandatory, and since you can't use vents in this machine, the third option pretty much comes down to a choice between optics and binoculars. I personally prefer optics, that's a great help in the second, more mobile part of the battle, but if you want to focus on the sniping, then binoculars are definitely the way to go. Crew skill-wise, I suggest 6th Sense and camo all the way, focusing afterwards mainly on view range and mobility enhancements. I'm thinking here specifically about recon and situational awareness for one, and clutch braking and off-road driving for the other part. And with this out of the window, it's finally verdict time. The Skorpion G is good. Really, really good. People often compare it to the Hellcat, and that's always a good sign. The gun is simply amazing, and the mobility isn't half bad either, allowing you to stay active in the second half of the battle as well, something that a lot of the other tank destroyers just simply can't do themselves. Is it overpowered? Probably, but not in the sense that it would be game-breaking or anything. It's just an extremely competitive option, even against the regular T-rate turreted tank destroyer, so it's probably a little bit too much for being a premium. I would not be surprised if it received some nerfs later on, though I wouldn't expect anything rushed in this regard. And as for the cost, the Skorpion G is available at the moment for a couple more days in 3 packages, with the largest bundle costing a whopping €130, and the cheapest one gets you only the garage slot and the machine itself for €40. Now this price tag puts it up there just under the T-rate premium heavies, so it's definitely one of the more expensive premium tanks you can buy these days. Now that's a lot of money for a lot of people for sure, but considering its potential, I would say it's rather in line with the regular wargaming pricing at least. Now, not to say that I wouldn't like to see an overall cheaper price tag on the premiums for one. Big question is, however, is it worth all this money? In short, I personally think it is. It's a strong machine that's not frustrating to play like a lot of the other T-rate premiums can be sometimes, and it's also probably one of the best credit earners in the game right now, thanks to its ability to rack up the damage really easily. If you like tank destroyer gameplay, aka snipe a lot in the beginning and get utterly destroyed if you muck it up, and you can afford, or maybe you were thinking about getting yourself a T-rate premium, then I highly suggest picking this one up. You won't be disappointed. But that's enough praise for this machine. Let's have a look at some gameplay, and as I didn't taste it yet, I found something really sweet. The highest damage game uploaded to the VOT replay site in a tier 10 match. Our driver today will be the Sparrow from the North American server, who will get into some serious butt-kicking with his new premium machine. Ready? Check this out! Alright, so here we are in our brand new Skorpion G in an encounter battle on Redshire. Oh boy, it's tank sniping heaven. It's not all good news though, as half of the team is actually tier 9s and 10s, among them some really heavily armored foes like the E100 and the E75, so we will definitely have to test out that gun. Well, if they trundle in our line of fire, of course. Now I have to say, this match, while the damage in it is absolutely staggering, will not be the best game to highlight the mobility of this machine. So at least in the beginning, let's see how quickly we can pull into a position. And yeah, on a flat ground, even in, I think this is probably medium terrain, we can reach a good solid 45 kilometers per hour. Going uphill, it gets a little bit more different. But yeah, flat ground, with 40-45 kilometers per hour can easily be reached. That means you can get in and out of positions within reasonable amount of time. Now, big question is, will we spot something on the other side? And oh yes, here is the first customer already. 249mm at average ban, and that's a really nice hit. Now that's slightly below average roll. We have, remember, we have 490 average damage per shot. But since we have a reasonable rate of fire, we will rack up the damage really quickly. T-54 didn't seem to learn its lesson, still poking around while completely offering his sides or rear. Unfortunately we can't tell because of this annoying replay bug, as the outlines do not appear in this regard. Will we be able to land another shot? Come on, just a little bit. No, unfortunately he was a little bit too slow there. But 0.29 meters average dispersion. Should be able to land a couple more good hits, and there we go. Basically within 3 hits we almost eradicated that tier 9 medium, and in fact he is already out of the game, and that's a big win. Well, how about the E100? That won't be so easy, right? Well, I mean, of course we are shooting probably at its sides. But the fact that we will land a couple more hits, the fact that we can land all these hits really easily, shooting standard AP ammunition, it's not something that a lot of machines can do reliably. I mean, sure, tier 8 tank destroyers have usually really good penetration, but here it's just all coming together. The secondary statistics, the accuracy, and the rate of fire, just making an absolute beast of this machine. Poor Ferdinand. Will he be reversing back into our line of fire? Come on, it would be really nice. There we go. Oh, that unfortunately missed. Well, that's 0.29 meters dispersion for you right there. Now I have to mention that the ammo loadout is something that I definitely don't agree with. It almost seems like this was maybe the first couple of matches that he played, and he didn't actually change the ammo layout just yet. 10 HE is a little bit too much. Well, it's a lot too much actually. I probably would take maybe 2-3 shells just for those lightly armored machines that we can encounter. There is nothing sweeter than blasting a gorilla with a high caliber HE shell after all. Probably 5-6 APCR shells for those tough E100, E75 frontal engagements, and they are in strong positions, and the rest regular AP. This machine is really comfortable by shooting regular AP rounds all throughout, even in higher tier battles. Oh, hello Mr. Ferdinand, we seem to have found you. So, who's next? Oh, this is a bit rushed with the E75, I'm afraid. And we should be reloaded in a second though. Now we are already at 3500 damage. How crazy is that? It didn't seem like much of an effort, was it? And, well, in fact, we are just about to hit 4000, but we get spotted. We have been a little bit cheeky there, so we have to move into cover right away, as there come the shots already in. Once you get spotted, you will be public enemy number 1, and everybody will be gunning for you for sure. Seems like we have gotten away with it, so that's useful one. Now we are down to our last 3 AP rounds though, so very soon we will have to fire the quite expensive APCR rounds, or we have to resort to HE. Now, luckily there are quite a few machines out there where HE is not a problem, including the tier 10 50Bs. If we can penetrate it, if I'm not mistaken, we have 60mm of pen on those things, so from the sides and rear we would actually be able to do quite some damage there. But no spoilers just yet, have to see how it goes. Would be really sweet to rack up the damage on the T100, getting the killing blow, but well, if it's a tier 8 light tank, it's a tier 8 light tank. We can't be choosy. By the way, shooting all these tier 9s and 10s will definitely help us to get a really healthy base experience in this match, so it would be really nice of those guys if they would come out of hiding. Oh, there is a gorilla there. Can we shoot him? No, unfortunately it doesn't look like it. So far the enemy seems to play pretty passively apart from the heavies, so there's not much endangering us at the moment. So we are in a really good situation for anybody who can snipe effectively from this reach. That gorilla is about gone, and we snap the shot in, taking out a very dangerous tier 10 tank destroyer. However, now we are down to HE, and well, firing it at the E75, yep, that's why you don't bring so much HE with yourself. 70 damage instead of the probably about 500 average damage we would have gotten is not a good deal to be taken. Now that 50B over there is a better choice for HE. Now we switched in the meantime to APCR, which is a bit of an overkill for the M46, but hey, it's better to fire APCR at him rather than, especially as he's firing APCR back at us, and whoa, that's a waste of 4000 credits. Probably the tracks ate it. So even against the Korean pattern, HE shells would be pretty much underperforming, so we have to fire those really dirty, nasty APCR shells with 311mm of PAM. Now you see the Korean and pattern and the regular Pershing going after us, pressuring us a little bit. And as you can see, well, they are firing APCR, but even regular AP would go through us like butter. This machine definitely can take the heat. It has 1150 hit points, which is good. And now we are down to HE shells only. But that should be plenty to take out this Korean pattern, and there we go indeed. Now, big question is, who can we shoot effectively? Well, I have to say Desperano has been really lucky with his endgame here. For these 8 HE shells he has an AMX-50-120, an AMX-50B, a Death Star, which is, well, less of a good choice, and an enemy Scorpion that we can shoot. And if we can shoot the backs and sides of these French tanks here, then, well, we can inflict damage like that. That was actually more roll than we would have probably inflicted with an AP run, so it definitely worked out this time. We have to be careful though, that guy probably spots us, and there we go, we get smacked by the enemy Scorpion, so better be careful. Now we are pretty much a one-shot for everybody on the enemy team. I mean, it's looking quite safe at the moment, but how often did we see that the team just simply threw away a completely straightforward game? Oh, that's a side shot. Ooh, and there we go again. Another great HE hit, 559 damage. Ah, that's what we like to see. So, let's slap us into gear and use our mobility. Now you can see you pick up speed really quickly going downhill. Unfortunately, however, it seems that this will not be enough to hunt down this Death Star. See him being shot at from multiple tanks, and there he goes indeed. Now, Scorpion, please don't shoot us. Oh, he actually relocated. That's good, because now we are in low ground and we can go after him. And shooting 128mm HE shells is definitely the way a Scorpion should be handled. We had a one shot as well though. Be really nice to farm some damage, so let's make it happen. Open up with Skorpion. Just trundles into our line of fire. Come on, do it. Auto locked on, and beautiful shot. 663 damage. Oh yeah. Now we would have to be really lucky to be able to get the killing blow in as well. Object 704 IS3 hit as well. And the Skorpion feeds us. And that means 8,513 damage. Not too shabby. Well, that was one crazy damage farming bonanza, that's for sure. Congratulations to the Sparrow for a crazy result. I think he probably agrees with his purchase on this machine after this match. I mean, just look at this carnage. A well-earned ace tanker and high caliber with 8,500 damage and 5 kills. Tier 8s, 9s and 10s have been smacked around just the same. And that's really not something that you usually see from a Tier 8 premium. Looking at the team results, well, Tier 10 tanks be ashamed. I mean, have a look at the enemy team. We outdamaged their top layer in a very capable top tier machine over 3 times in this match. How absolutely crazy is that? Now naturally this also meant a crap ton of experience, 1963 base to be exact. Not bad at all to say the least. Overall we fired 27 hits, 20 of which hit and all but 1 penetrated as well. That's just how good this gun is even in a tier 10 match. And as for the credit earning potential, 160,000 credits net profit is a pretty good indicator for it, I think. Right, this was then my quick look at the premium monster, that's the Rheinmetall Skorpion G. I hope you did find this little review useful, and if you did, thanks a lot for considering giving this a like or sharing it. Don't forget that this weekend there will be actually a video both on Saturday and Sunday as well, with some uncut gameplay without commentary to feature some of your epic games that unfortunately didn't make it into Tuesday's series, but are great matches nonetheless. Thank you very much for watching all week once again, have an excellent weekend everyone, and of course I look forward to seeing you again with some juicy videos next week as well.